and welcome to your Bestie's Fun Art at Home painting kit. So excited that you're here. So first you're going to start out with getting your paints on the plate. And I know this is a time lapse, so we're going to go through this pretty quickly, but just remember that you can use your device to slow the speed. And you can also pause it as we continue here. So I'm first just going to work on the background, and we're going to dip in white and blue. And then right here to the left of the cardinal's head, we're going to do a swirl. You'll see here. So you're just going to paint it blue, kind of around your cardinal. Making sure that your paint is kind of lighter around the cardinal. That way you have some contrast. You don't want it to be super dark blue there. But I'm going to go ahead and just kind of paint the background. Now, as I get over here to the right, I'm going to dip in darker blue or use less white because I want it to get obviously a little bit darker the further away we get from the moon, which is right there beside the cardinal's head, and it makes it look really cool. So you can see how it's darker on the right. And then now I'm going to dip back in white and go back to that moon. Now I'm not cleaning the brush. We want it to stay blue, but just dipping in some white and then just doing a swirl there. And you're best if you just do like a big swirl without stopping. And then I did swirl over my cardinal's head, but you don't have to do that. But it's just showing you that I wanted an authentic swirl without stopping. Now I'm going to add some darker blue over here to the left just to give that swirl, like give that moon spot just more of a feature. I'm just going to continue to work on this until you like it. And one of the things that you do whenever you're working on wood, you're going to want to use water sometimes. Now, it's really important if you use water that you don't just put your brush straight into, the pail and then right onto your painting, because if it drips, it's going to mess your painting up. So I do dip in water. You'll see a couple times. Here we go. And then I'm just putting some water just to thin my paint down just a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to fill in the background gaps here. So we're going to do the entire background before we paint our cow. I always like to do my painting in the order of the way things are in the world, because then that is going to give the proper depth. So right now I'm painting all of the background. We're going to go and do the sky or the ground. I think it's the ground that's back behind the fence here. And down the side of the cow. Now I will say later in this video, I actually decide, like right now I'm doing the blue here. I actually decide to come back and do it a little bit lighter. So just so you know, but really that's probably just me being picky. But yeah, but right now you're just working on getting some blue in the background. You're building this out. Everything that we're doing, if you don't like it later, you can always change it, and you're going to see that I do that throughout this time lapse. So right now I'm just focusing on getting the background in. I'm using that medium round brush that you have in your kit. But at any point, if you would feel more comfortable using a small brush, you can. Just for the background, I like this one because it holds a lot of paint and I can work pretty quick. So now I'm going back in and I'm going to add some snow. Oh, and then I realize, wait a minute. I don't want to add snow yet, so don't do that. So now we're going to mix brown. So you're going to mix brown by adding blue and red and yellow together. Okay, blue and red and a little bit of yellow and then white. And that is going to make your brown. So blue, red, and yellow together makes your brown. And then you add white to it. Okay, so mix your brown how you want. And we want to have kind of a darker red, more red brown. And when you get a color that you like, then you're going to go ahead and just paint that on your fence. So I'm keeping it pretty dark. You'll notice that I kind of paint off on my plate a lot. And that is what I do when I'm painting and I want to keep my brush pointy. I'll just kind of roll it off on my plate. Don't be afraid to turn your project upside down. I did this so you guys could, so I wouldn't block the camera, so you can see what I'm doing. But if you're right-handed, a lot of times like I just do better if the painting's, closer to me. Now I've moved to the big brush and I've dipped in the brown because the big brush is just the perfect width to go right down and make. It's a flat brush and you can just go straight down to make that long board that's on the side. And also, this is your painting, so if you don't want the long board, you could always extend your background over and just have a fence back there. It's totally up to you. So now I've gotten the I believe that's the small brush, and I'm just going in with some white while the brown is still wet. And if yours is dry, because this does dry pretty quick on wood, then you can just dip in a little bit of brown and a little bit of white just to bring some light onto our wood. So, and this is your paint, so if at any point, you're out of paint or you need more, it looks like I'm getting more, then that's up to you. So it looks like I'm going to do some more blue here. Let's see what it is. I think I'm going to lighten this up a little bit. We don't want everything in our painting to be too dark, so I decided to lighten up the ground. It looks like here, you'll see. Like I mentioned earlier, I decided to lighten it. If you like yours the way it is, so you can always leave it. But the beautiful thing, what makes a artwork, even in photography, if you'll notice, what makes them really pretty is the presence of dark darks and light lights. See how I added some water, and I'm just putting some water in my plate there so I can thin this down just a little bit. And it's okay to build it out where you have the darker blue and then now we're adding some light. It just helps give your painting depth. And then you might want to keep a wipe. Like I had a little baby wipe or whatever. And I painted like this over my wood and I just wipe it right off. It's kind of nice. So now I'm going back in with mostly, I'm not cleaning my brush, but just with white, and it's really thick. And I'm putting thick paint on there, and I'm just going to let that thick paint dry on there because it makes it look like snow. So we're just going to go back in and we're going to add some snow features. So I'm just doing thick snow piled up around the big pole on the right. And going back in, just making sure. I don't want to completely cover it all with the thick snow. Just trying to make piles of snow here and there. So now we're going to add like a snowdrift over here to the left. And then I'm also going to go ahead and lighten that up as well. I just thought that the blue got a little bit too dark. So we're adding some snowdrifts over here. And then now I've just dipped the tip in. It can be blue and white, but my lighter blue and white. And I'm just blotting across the top of my fence to add snow that is sitting there. So I'm using, fairly thick paint and just blotting it right across the top of the fence to add snow. And then I'm also going to touch down a little bit of snow on the side of the fence, like the wind has been blowing the snow. And, you know, I don't want thick ridges on my cow. So the whole time that you're doing the background, you're going to want to overlap, like go, you know, at least touch your cow and maybe even overlap some of the lines because we don't want to see those when we're done. But if I get thick paint on the, you know, on my subject, I'm going to wipe it off because I don't want it to dry with that texture. Okay, so now I've mixed red and a tiny bit of black with it. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to work on our cardinal. I'm going to use a tiny little brush for this. You can see where I swirled over my cardinal. But a little bit of blue and red is going to make a darker red. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to put a coat. So back here along the wings, it's like darker red. And I just kind of round that off. And you see where I rolled my brush off so it's pointy. And just kind of made those tips. Now I've gone back with just pure red to do its chest and under its body there. Don't overthink the bird. He's really simple. The beak is actually solid red. So I went ahead and just painted it the bright red. But then you're also on the top side of his beak, you're going to want to add just a little bit of light. There you go. Just a tiny bit of white to the top side of the beak. And then I think I'm probably cleaning my brush and dipping in a little bit of black just to underline the bottom side of his beak. Okay, so we've cleaned, we've got the black. So it's a little kind of a V up there above his beak. And then basically you're just going to fill in the lines that I have for you. This little square or rectangle below the beak. And then I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of black and red to the wings just to feature them. A little bit of black just to kind of make the wings stand out there. They're a little bit darker. The wing is darker on the tips, so I add a little black to that. Now just a little at the top of the wing. And then now I used a pencil just to dip in white and I dipped a pencil in white and just touched down and made his eye. And with that, your bird's done. I mean, don't overthink it too much. It looks like I decided to go back in with some more bright red here and there. Sometimes when I'm doing like a bird or an animal like this, I'll take a minute and I'll look at it. So I decided to lengthen his wing there over in front of the fence. And you certainly have enough. And then I'm adding just some bright red just to make him really pop. And I think here's where I'm going to put a tiny, tiny line of dark underneath his beak. Not too much. Tiny little line. And oh, I'm putting more white, it looks like. I just kind of play with it until it's kind of a little dance of adding color and light and shadow. Color, light, shadow. Color, light, shadow. It's kind of there we go. And once I get him to the shape I like and he is right there in the light. So I was making sure that I had some light on him. Okay, so good job. You're finished with your cardinal. And now we are going to get fresh white paint and clean your brush off really, really well to get ready to add the white to your cow. So pull up your image so you have it to look at. And we're just going to go ahead and put a nice thin layer of white in all of the white spaces of our cow. remember, using paint as your friend. So in this, I'm just using my fresh white. Using that medium brush because it carries a lot of paint for us. I'm using the shape of my brush here to really help me get in those little points where the hair is. White around his face. You're going to notice that whenever we are painting with whites and blacks, that we have to look for pockets of shadows and shading to make sure that that our different features are differentiated from each other. So yeah, so we are painting the body here. And you know, it's your cow, so if you make your lines bigger than what they are, then that's fine. His spots and things, or her spots and things, don't have to be in the same places. So this is the fun part where it all really starts to take shape. Now, once I start doing hair, I am going to start doing thick paint. So it leaves these beads of paint behind that will give the feel and look of hair. So now I'm just doing another coat here on the face. And then thick paint. And then just touching, pulling in from the background. So I'm using the shape of that brush to make the hair. And then here I'm just coming in and I'm going to dip a lot because I'm going to use really thick paint. And this cow had bangs. How fun is that? So see how I'm just using the thick paint to do some little wisps into the background, so to give her some wild hair. And then now we're going to borrow just a little bit of our brown that we used earlier. It may be kind of dried up, but I'm scraping around on it to get a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and add a little shadow here under her bangs, so it gives that illusion that they're popping. And so she had these little bangs, and then she also had that little star, like where her hair's going out in a star pattern on her head, which is cool. But the brown was a little bit too much, so I just kind of blotted in white. And so right now we're going to be doing some shadows. And I'm making just a little bit of a light gray. And it needs to be darker. So there's this shadow under the chin. There's like 3 little strips of this triangle shaped chin. And it's just 3 different kind of hues of gray that we're going to put in there, with the center one being darker. So you're looking at your original, and maybe there's even spots that I missed or didn't capture where you're going to get shadows. Now I'm making the color for her nose, which is going to be a dusty pink. So I'm borrowing from a little bit of the brown, getting a little bit of white and red, and a little bit of like gray, and I'm just making a dusty pink color. So play around with your color and kind of mix a dusty pink. And so I did 1 strip of it that's dark, but then I'm going to dip in some white without cleaning my brush, and then just kind of spread that around. And then it's going to get lighter. There we go. Zoom in. That's better. So then the center part here is really light, so I'm just dipping in white, and it was really kind of thick and textury. So I'm putting just thick paint in there so it has a nice texture. And then this upper lip here is like a dusty gray kind of color. And then now the bottom lip is going to be a darker dusty pink. So like a gray and some of the pink color. And you want to blot that in on the chin. And then we're going to go back in and just put with our tiny brush, and just put a little black line there so we can see the mouth. Looks very nice. Then we're going to, with that same brush, just go ahead and paint in the nostrils. Oh, I love how a nose comes together. Isn't that cute? Looks so real. I'm using the shape of that brush to get the little points at the top. It's kind of like a teardrop. Don't overthink it. Okay, so I've cleaned the brush. We're going back in with white. Notice I'm resting my hand. Everybody's hands shake, so I'm resting it with my pinky. All right, we're going to put our, I can't really rest with my pinky over there, so I'll flip it. Always make sure that when you're creating your artwork that you're comfortable. So if you have to flip it upside down, go right ahead. Okay, so we have our eyes painted. And looks like I took a quick break. Oh, we're getting our black. So here we go. We're going to go in and start painting our black. Now this is where you definitely are going to want to go over your background a little bit. So we're going to, make sure that you don't see your lines. But now we're going to go over, and it might be just a tiny bit bigger than your image because we don't want to see our lines, and we want to have that really crisp contrast. Using a decent amount of paint is going to get you a crisp line. And if it leaves little beads of paint behind, that's okay. It'll dry flat. Don't try to fix it. All right, we're going to go in here around the face. Now, where like the ear and the face are coming in contact with each other, and the face is in front of the ear, you're going to need to add some white. See there? So I make it like a little bit of more of a gray because there's light on the face. So this is where like your shadows become really important because that pulls the face in front of the ear. And that's going to happen here with the body as well. So we've got to make sure that the black on the body is darker than the black color on the face. So right now it's a little bit gray, but in a minute I'm actually going to make it more gray on the face just to make sure that it pulls it forward. So we're just adding our little black pattern. Of course, your pattern can be different. There's no stress there. And I am using the little brush for this because I'm just going and filling in all my little areas. Touching them up. And here we are, adding that white onto the face, so it brings the face back into the front. Really important. Sometimes those things are the most important thing in your painting. So now we're going to color in the eyes. Paint in the eyes, I guess. Looks like I added a little white. Sometimes, like, as you go, you have to shape up your face where it looks right. The lines, I just made little bitty lines. It looks like a sideways Y under his eye, under her eye, and then just did a little tiny dot of white, and that eye is done. So now we're going to head on over to the other side and add our black ear. It's so fun. This is my favorite thing. I love seeing like it start to pop when we add the black. So when I painted right there on the ear, and then there's the fuzzy hair, I made it jagged, if you'll notice, to support the look of hair there. You're just going to fill this in, and again, you're going to have your shadows along the face that we'll end up doing here in a little bit. But I'm using the little brush to get in all my little spots with hair. And you can be looking at your reference photo to see where it looks more gray versus black, etc. Here we go with the face. So exciting. Now, if you make a mark, let's see how I did the gray on the face. If you make a mark with black somewhere on your painting and where you don't want it, you need to have a baby wipe in your hand or a wet paper towel or something. You can, as long as the wherever your mark is that you made is on a dry section of the painting, you usually can just wipe it right off. But at first it'll smear, so you have to wipe it, and then you have to like get a clean spot that's wet and wipe it again. Here I'm just filling in the eye again. And you keep wiping until it's gone. And it might take a little of the paint off underneath, but that's okay. The other strategy is let it dry, okay? Don't try to repaint over wet black paint. That's just going to make a mess. So, but if you let it dry, your acrylics will let you paint right over the top. White will cover up the black. Little marks in the eye there. Shaping up the hair. Adding a couple little hair lines here on the nose. Just make it cute. So anyway, so if it's super fresh, you can wipe it off with a wet wipe, or you wait till the end if you get black on there, and then you can touch it up and paint right over it. But we never try to fix wet paint by repainting on it. So we're adding some whiskers. When I do the whiskers, it's just like I'm only getting paint on like the very end of the very tip of the end hair of my brush. Also, if you're afraid you're going to mess up whiskers, don't worry about it. You can always paint black right back over the top. You can always fix it. Anything you do can be fixed. So I've decided here that I wanted more snow coming down to kind of match the other snowdrift. And I noticed that I had painted up and down on this background. And the ground would not be up and down. It would be side to side. So now I am. So I'm kind of showing you how you can fix things. So I'm making my strokes sideways instead of up and down, which it totally changes the look. It's surprising how these details matter. And I really liked that better. Looks a lot better. So now I'm going to go back in up here on my moon and add a smaller little circle. Just make it more of a moon. And there you go. It's looking pretty good. Let's see what we're going to do next. I can't remember. Oh, we're taking the handle of your brush. So you want to use fresh paint and put it on your tray, and then and pretty thick, like a little dollop of it. And then put your handle in it, and you it's pretty cool that when you use your handle, the dots will get sequentially smaller. You can usually get about 3 or 4, and then I'll get fresh paint, and then I am now going to sign my artwork. That's very important. Always make sure that you put your initials or your signature on your art. Don't do it on the edge. Do it in there all nice and confident. And there you go. Congratulations. You've done an excellent job. I'm adding some little details. Sometimes it's nice to sign it. There we go. I fixed the head. It took me a while because that's why I left it blank, because I wanted to add more hair there. So yeah,